Ernest Borgnine identifies the actors he dislikes most. Ernest Borgnine was born of Fine Borgino on January 24, 1917 in Hammond, Connecticut. He became one of Hollywood's most resilient, versatile, and loved actors. Borgnine was the son of Italian immigrants, and he grew up in a working-class household where discipline, diligence, and perseverance were core values. His parents separated during his early life, and his mother took him temporarily to Italy before they came back to the United States. This transatlantic exposure presented young Borgnine with the richness of a different culture and the deeper sense of struggle and perseverance, which would later become widespread in his film performances. Prior to becoming an actor, Borgnine led a career that was as vivid as many of the characters he would later bring to life. He joined the United States Navy at age 18 and served with honor for more than 10 years, including during World War II. His time in uniform made him a man of discipline, loyalty, and camaraderie. Borgnine frequently spoke about his Navy days with pride, giving credit to the experience for providing him with direction and purpose. Despite his rise to fame as a Hollywood actor, he never lost his affinity for the military, frequently attending Navy functions, veterans events, and lending support to campaigns that recognized servicemen and women. Following his discharge, Borgnine was looking for a new way in life. He had no previous experience in the arts, but at his mother's urging, which indicated she felt he had an innate talent for expression, he took up acting classes. What was initially a tentative experiment soon became an enthusiasm. He developed his skills in theater, especially with stage productions at the Barter Theater in Virginia, before he came to Broadway and ultimately to Hollywood. His rugged, burly physique and signature gap-toothed smile made him an immediately recognizable figure, frequently stereotyped as a villain or tough in his initial work. Borgnine, though, demonstrated that he could do far better than stereotyping. His career breakthrough in 1955 was starring in Marty, a sensitive low-budget drama about a lonely Bronx butcher looking for love and self-respect. Borgnine's genuine, unglamorous, and very human performance touched hearts and moved audiences and critics alike, including taking home the Best Actor Academy Award. That moment secured his place in the history of film, making him go from a steady character actor to a star whose depth and humanity could touch millions. Over his extended career, Borgnine proved to possess an extraordinary talent for undergoing genre and medium changes. He starred in hard-boiled war dramas, such as From Here to Eternity, 1953, westerns like The Wild Bunch, 1969, and action-adventure films like The Dirty Dozen, 1967. On television, he was a household name in the 1960s thanks to the comedy show McHale's Navy, in which his characterization of the affable and naughty Lieutenant Commander Quentin McHale won him over a new generation of admirers. Later in life, his distinctive booming voice reacquainted him with younger generations when he voiced the character of Mermaid Man on the animated cartoon SpongeBob SquarePants. In spite of his fame, Borgnine remained humble, down-to-earth, and generous-spirited. A man with a booming laugh and a twinkle in the eye, he never let fame isolate him from regular people. He frequently took time to speak with fans, sign autographs, and regale them with anecdotes about his long and diverse career. His coworkers regularly sang his praises as not only a consummate professional, but also as a friendly and supportive presence on location. Ernest Borgnine's life outside his iconic career was as rich and dramatic as his, and perhaps the most gossiped about part of his life was the sequence of his marriages. 5 times during his life, Borgnine was married, each time tracing the different phases of his personal as well as professional life. His first marriage started in 1949, soon after he had come back from serving in the U.S. Navy, where he had devoted 10 years of his early adulthood to military service in peacetime and World War II. While in the Navy, he met Roa Kamans, who was captivated by his friendly nature and who encouraged his early shift from a strict sailor to a man aiming for a civilian vocation. Their marriage had lasted for almost a decade from 1949 until 1958, and in that time they had a daughter, Nancy, born on the 28th of May, 1952. Being a father was a deeply meaningful experience for Borgnine, who frequently declared that being part of family was one of the most stabilizing influences in his life, even though turmoil occasionally went along with his personal relationships. But as Borgnine's career as an actor took off during the 1950s, the pressures of Hollywood stardom and absence from home began to strain the marriage. Eventually, the marriage ended in divorce, although Borgnine was committed to his position as a father for Nancy. His second marriage introduced him to the international film world and its glamour. In 1959, he married the great Mexican actress Katy Jurado, who had already established a reputation as a tough, energetic actor in Hollywood as well as in Mexican films. Theirs was an energetic and passionate relationship, and the couple was a handsome couple, both admired for their acting skills as well as their charm. Their very intensity, however, that initially drew them to each other also caused tension. They were both forceful personalities with challenging jobs, and Borgnine subsequently confessed that the two of them frequently argued on matters of difference in their private and work lives. Their union eventually collapsed in 1963 after 4 stormy years. Borgnine subsequently spoke well of Jurado when he admitted that the actress had left an indelible mark on him and was truly a great actress. Borgnine's third marriage, however, proved to be one of the most notorious in his own personal history. In 1964, he wed legendary actress and singer Ethel Merman, whose larger-than-life stage personality was equaled only by Borgnine's own boisterous personality. The marriage was explosive from the beginning, as both were headstrong, outspoken, and given to having fiery tempers. Their marriage famously lasted just 42 days, making it one of the shortest celebrity marriages in Hollywood history. The breakdown was so acrimonious and traumatic that when Merman subsequently wrote her autobiography, she famously left an entire page blank beneath the chapter detailing her marriage to Borgnine, an implied but scathing comment on the experience. Borgnine's old buddy and comedic sidekick Tim Conway soon offered a humorous but also heartfelt reason for the debacle. Ernie is explosive. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And Ethel was a very dominant woman. So you get 2 bombs in a room, something is going to blow up, and I suppose it probably did. The statement aptly summed up the explosive chemistry of 2 show business legends whose tempers quite simply could not be contained under the same roof. Following the public drama of his short-lived marriage to Merman, Borgnine married for the 4th time in 1965, this time to Donna Ranker. Their union lasted longer, up to 1972, and bore him 3 children, further entrenching Borgnine's fatherhood. Their first daughter, Sharon, was born on August 5, 1965. For years after that, they had a son named Christopher, born August 9, 1969. The family expanded with a 3rd daughter, Diana, born December 29, 1970. Borgnine was proud to have a larger family as a father, frequently talking about the pleasure his children gave him even when his marriages collapsed. Yet in spite of the family tie, the marriage to Ranker also ended in 1972, and Borgnine was again single and looking for enduring companionship. It was in his 5th marriage, however, that Borgnine finally found lasting stability and contentment. On February 24, 1973, Borgnine wed Norwegian-born entrepreneur Tove Tresnes, who would be not only his life's companion, but also his rock-steady supporter through the latter part of his career. Tove, who went on to become a successful cosmetics entrepreneur with her Tove company, brought an air of quiet and stability to Borgnine that had generally evaded him in past relationships. Their union lasted for almost 4 decades, something quite unusual in Hollywood, and it held till the death of Borgnine in 2012. Colleagues and friends used to comment that with Tove, Borgnine finally had a companion who could keep up with his energy and at the same time calm his volatility with patience and comprehension. She stood beside him in his sunset years, sharing love, stability, and companionship, and their marriage is best recalled as the genuine anchor of Borgnine's personal life. In his long and storied Hollywood career, Ernest Borgnine established a name for himself, not just for his range as an actor, but also for his outspoken, no-frills personality. He was the sort of chap who would say what was on his mind without ever being too concerned with hurting people's feelings. And this candor extended even to what he said about some of his colleagues in the business. Borgnine, who worked with hundreds of actors over the span of more than 6 decades, sometimes formed deep and lasting friendships with his co-stars, but he was equally unafraid to admit when he could not stand someone. Year by year, in interviews and discussions, every now and then he would drop the names of actors he just did not like to work with and occasionally actually say that he hated to work with them. Perhaps the worst example was his strong dislike of Frank Sinatra. Borgnine and Sinatra initially met in the 1950s during a period in which Sinatra was moving from being an entertainer-singer to a serious dramatic actor. Although Borgnine admired Sinatra's fame and singing voice, he frequently had contempt for what he perceived as Sinatra's arrogance and disdainful treatment of other performers. Borgnine spoke about more than once how Sinatra behaved with a sort of superior smugness on the set, habitually talking down to character actors and crew. For Borgnine, who had struggled his way through theater and character work, such an attitude was unacceptable. He once said that Sinatra believed that he was superior to everybody else, and he couldn't stand it. This animosity persisted for years, and despite the fact that they regularly met up within Hollywood social circles, Borgnine never grew fond of Sinatra and found him to be one of the most disagreeable men he had ever worked with. Another person whom Borgnine talked about with a considerable amount of hostility was John Wayne, one of America's most iconic stars. Borgnine envied Wayne's presence on screen and his position as a cinematic symbol of masculinity, but off-screen their personalities conflicted. Borgnine believed Wayne was controlling and frequently belittling of actors who he perceived as being below him in status. Although they never engaged in a violent altercation, Borgnine spoke of working with Wayne as being on eggshells. Because Wayne never had to stand in anyone else's shadow on or off the set, Borgnine, whose own more collaborative and earthier style of filmmaking, found Wayne's larger-than-life personality annoying. Though he conceded that Wayne was charming on occasion, Borgnine never lost sight of times when Wayne demeaned directors or treated supporting actors shamefully. It left him with a bad taste, and in subsequent years, Borgnine did confess that Wayne was not a man he liked to be around. Borgnine also made no bones about disliking Frank Sinatra's Rat Pack colleague, Dean Martin, although his animosity toward Martin was not quite as toxic as his feelings toward Sinatra himself. Borgnine resented Martin relying too heavily on his charm and affable public image, and felt that Martin never really committed himself fully to the work of acting. Martin was lazy and not serious, Borgnine believed, more introspective about the nightlife scene than the art of performance. He had dismissed Martin once by remarking that he never really took anything seriously, including the work, and that always annoyed him. Later in life, Borgnine acknowledged that his feuds with certain actors were partially due to differences in personalities that could have been eased with the passage of time.